And Abel's just made his way into the sighting. It was also great that a few other vehicles and people are enjoying the sighting with us this morning. Morning, everyone. Morning. And I've just been mentioning that they are incredibly agile and speedy and stealthy, and Sandman would like to know exactly how fast are they, and they've got a short burst of speed, and they can move, I'm told, 28 meters in 1 second. So frighteningly speedy over a short distance. Leopard will very seldomly chase their prey any further than that distance, and a 30-meter sprint will be just about as long as they get for the leopard. So it's a burst of speed. Unlike cheetah, who can sustain their speed for a little bit longer. So, and that's important to understand, Sandman, is that for a leopard to be able to catch its prey, it needs to be about 4 or 5 meters away before it explodes. Obviously, depending on the type of prey, that may vary slightly, and slower prey it won't need to be as close to. But the prey have evolved over many, many years to avoid being eaten by these animals, and that's why their strike rate is only about 10 to 20% of attempted hunts will result in a kill. Quite fortunate that we have an overlap of 2 different males, because usually how it works, Hannah, is that one male will have about 4 or 5 females within his very large territory. But because we are on a boundary of 2 males, that means we could see 2 different ones, whereas if we were in the center of any one of their property, then we would naturally only be able to see 1. So those are the kind of 4 leopards that we see. It's always changing, Hannah, and we used to see Shadow quite a lot. Now we don't see her as much. We used to see Mvula more. He used to be most dominant here on Djuma. Now he's been chased further east by Tingana, who we're seeing more and more on Djuma now. So things are forever changing, and hopefully another change will be some new additions to the leopards of our area. Both Shadow and Karula are due to provide us with some cubs, and who knows, it could both happen simultaneously, and that would be the jackpot. Now, what I'm going to suggest is we've had such great views of this leopard, and I just want to slightly move out of the sighting so we can let Ephraim and Abel both get their guests into good spots and get a little bit closer. And the great thing is that Brent's found some other animals that are not really around that much at the moment, or this specific dynamic, so enjoy what he's found.
So we've come across what looks to be quite a big breeding herd of buffalo slowly mobile into Djuma, and that's quite exciting because we all know what follows breeding herds of buffalo. So who can guess what I'm hoping is not too far behind these critters, and I'm hoping the reason they've moved this area is because they've been chased by said animal that we're hoping will follow them, and said animal we haven't seen for a while. And if you know what I'm talking about, you can pop your answers through to questions at WildEarthTV or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. So they've probably only got moving in the last sort of half an hour, and they've bedded down for the night, chewing the cud. They probably bedded down very close to here. They don't look like they have really woken up yet, haven't had their coffee. There's one scratching its head there, Andrew, on the marula tree. Can you get it, or do I need to move backwards a little bit or forward? I think I need to move forward a little bit. She's not now, of course. But I was having a good scratch against that tree. So I'm just going to call it in on the radio, let everyone else know what we've got here. Stations large Nyari, Buffelshoek cut line between Buffelshoek east and west. They seem to be slowly mobile southwest. It's always wonderful to spend some time with big breeding herds. We often see those bachelor groups, and there's one. That last buffalo Andrew was on is going to become a member of a bachelor group one day, and it's still quite a young male. And when we get back, there we go, if we can zoom in on his horns there, Andrew. So quite often young males like that, or males that haven't hit full maturity, are referred to as soft boss males. Boss is that huge bulky bit between their head on the horns. The females don't really have that large boss, as it's called. And hopefully, roll back. There we go. If we zoom very close in on the horns there, you can see there's actually hair still growing on the horns. So that's soft boss. They haven't become those gnarled, tough, rock hard bosses that those old Duggar boys have. So we're gonna stick with these buffalo, but we're gonna go back to Scotty, who's got Karula on the move.
So I think these may be the last visuals of Karula. Although maybe we'll get lucky. It appears like she may have heard something in there. And let's see. Yeah, she's definitely stalking something there. Look how she's flattening herself to the ground. Difficult to know what it is. Maybe it's a straggler from that herd of impalas, or maybe it's something else. Some francolins or small birds. Even though her... Oh, she's just low down again there, just out of our view. And they can be strange animals when they hunt leopard. I've seen leopard very close to potential prey fall asleep and completely lose track of what they're doing. And this may be the case with her this morning. Wonderful that we can just see a little tail twitching from side to side there. But I think we're going to leave Abel and Ephraim to enjoy the sighting with their guests, as we can't see too much from here, and we've got a lot more ground to cover on Djuma, and it'll be useful to see what has been happening elsewhere. Lady Luga, you've just made a comment saying that you love watching her tail twitch from side to side, and because of that comment, Lady Luga, we will stay here until we lose sight of that twitching tail. It's in the perfect little gap for us, and I guess an emphasis on just how lucky we've been this morning to get that initial glimpse of her. There's actually been a few moments where she's been lost and found. Initially, when we bumped into her, we literally saw her for 5 seconds, and she disappeared into some thick bush, and that was the last we saw of her for about a minute or two before VM spotted her again, and that was as we went live with you guys. And then thankfully you guys did get to see her for a few minutes before we lost her yet again. And it was Brent's wonderful intuition and reading into the bush telegraph and all the signs around us that got us the third and final sighting of her. Great, well, I think that's that. And isn't it it wonderful to see a breeding herd of buffalo again with Brent. It's been quite some time that we've had a breeding herd of buffalo on the property, and who knows, maybe there's some lions not too far behind them.
So the buffalo is still definitely just waking up, slowly starting to get mobile. And they're looking a little bit too relaxed to have anything else for them. Look at that. The young buffalo drinking and headbutting his mother in the udder. Obviously not getting enough milk. And with quite a lot of animals, especially if you know a little bit about domestic cows, that behavior is quite common. It's supposed to sort of stimulate a release of more milk from the mother. So you will often see baby of the bovids doing that. Well, a big thank you to Vivian in East Tennessee, who says we're all doing a fantastic job. Well, Vivian, you're doing a fantastic job joining us on the live safaris. And Vivian got the answer right. What we hope to find behind herds of buffalo is definitely the king of the predators, the king of the jungle, the lion. So we've got a bigger buffalo bull who's popped out just in front of us. And we were talking about soft bosses versus hard bosses. And we saw in that young male, it had a lot of hair growing. Now there's a male in his prime, and you can see how hard the bosses are. You don't see that thin coating of hair that's growing. And of course, enables him to beat up the other boys for mating rights. So we've had leopard, and we had that amazing sighting with Karula, and so special that Scott and I were both able to enjoy that together. It doesn't happen that often. And the Sandman, who's watching via YouTube, is wondering, can a single buffalo kill a leopard, or does it need to be a group? A single buffalo is very capable of killing a leopard if it gets hold of it. Fortunately for a leopard, it's much faster than a buffalo. So generally the leopards are able to avoid trampling. I have actually seen a leopard thrown around by a buffalo quite a long time ago in the Sabi Sands. And bless Andrew, who can't control his sneezing. Tusk
Nobody
Andrew.
can.
No, of course you can. And what happened, there was an very old male leopard called Tumbela that we used to see in the southern Sabi Sands, and he was probably about 14 at the stage. He was completely blind in one eye. He was looking really, really bad, and very, very skinny and not well. And he was sleeping at the base of the termite mound. Bless you, Andrew, but that's the last time. I'm not going to stand for this. Yes, maybe Andrew's allergic to buffalo. Maybe we should ask him to go walk out and see how allergic. But back to that Tumbela male, he was sleeping at the base of a large termite mound, and being very old, a bit deaf and blind in one eye, he failed to notice about 600 buffalo that meandered up to him. And as soon as they caught wind of him, they smelt him. They charged in, and one of the bulls actually managed to toss him in the air. But being a leopard, even an old leopard, he managed to grip onto the weeping bovine that was on the termite mound and just hang on and stay in there. And then the whole herd surrounded there, and they kept him up there for a good half an hour before moving off. big thank you to Sharon from Pittsburgh, who says, I'm hands down the safari samurai. And I quite enjoy the fact of that. I got mocked quite heavily by certain cameramen and other presenters for my man bun, but I'll definitely take a samurai bun over man bun. But thanks very much for that, Sharon. Sharon, I'm going to get you a question in a second, but now we have a look there. There's a buffalo eating round leaf teak, and buffaloes are predominantly grazers, and they very seldom will eat leaves. They're not to say they don't, but they generally prefer certain species. And this is definitely a sort of sign of how dry it is at the moment. There's not enough grass around that the buffalo are eating quite a lot of leaves. As it doesn't look like that's his favorite food. It looks like almost trying to feed vegetables to certain children or certain cameramen. But so Sharon was asking, is arthritis a problem in animals out here, or do they die too early before it really sets in? Sharon, I think that's definitely what happens. Arthritis would set in on any of the animals, and I know it is a big problem in captive animals that live in zoos, but out in the bush, not so much. If you start getting a bit arthritic and a bit slow, you generally become dinner. But very interesting, unfortunately, due to this very dry period, a lot of the wildflowers and stuff are not as visible, although it is quite a rare one in this part of the world. But speaking about arthritis, there's a plant called the African potato, which is an incredible sort of cure or preventative for arthritis. And there is a pharmaceutical company who has actually taken that African potato and produced an arthritic medicine. My grandparents, on the other hand, when they lived on the farm, started taking the medicine, and then they decided it's probably better to go straight from source. So my grandmother used to harvest the African potatoes, which can be quite prolific in certain areas. And look there, he's eating a baby false marula. And she used to slice it up and make tea out of it. And it does not taste very nice, but as small grandchildren, we were dosed with it, well, every time my grandparents had it. So there is an arthritic cure that grows out in the bush, in the African potato. So these buffalo are not moving too much. They're sort of still waking up. So I think we're going to head off, see what else we can find. We might pop back to see how they're doing a little bit later. But in the meantime, he's got a bundle of joy that is all wrapped up in a present of stripes for you.
Look at how cute this little zebra foal is with its fluffy, furry backside. And this is one of the smaller zebra foals that I've seen in quite some time. Not too sure how old it is, but maybe within its first month of being on the planet with us. So very small. And there's also another foal, as well as a few other pregnant females within this herd. It's a fairly large herd, and I can see about 7 or 8 adults, which is a good sized herd for this area. And if we're just a little bit patient, we should get some more great views of them as they move through this bush. It's kind of fairly thick, but there are a few little open areas. Now what's really interesting is take a close look at how tall that young zebra foal is, and its stomach is just about as high off the ground as its mother's stomach. Watch as it walks a little bit closer towards her. Just about. And as the other zebra all intermingle, imagine being a predator who does not see in color vision, you see in shades of black and white. You're just going to have a blur of zebra, and it's going to be difficult to distinguish between an adult and the small one. They're all just going to be one big blur of stripes, and that's what helps keep young zebra foals safe. As long as they're staying close to the adults, they're going to blend in and almost appear to be one of them. They're not going to stand out greatly, and that is because of those long little spindly legs. such hypnotizing animals, I find. If you really start focusing in on their coats, you can get lost in a maze of different paths and flows. And I really enjoy taking close looks at them. One of my favorite zebras to do that with is actually the Grevy's zebra, which has got an incredibly dense stripe pattern with very, very thin stripes. One of my favorite things about being on Safari Live is just about to happen, because we've got a new viewer who isn't sure whether this is happening right now. Good morning, Gabriel. And yes, this is happening this very second, and it's hard to believe, but it's true. We're in the middle of the African wilderness, filming some zebra. We've just left a leopard. I hope you got to see that. It crossed our boundary out of our property, and yes, it's happening this very second in the northeastern corner of South Africa. It's great to have you on board, and we look forward to getting to know you in the future. So, as I said right at the start of the drive, it would be worth phoning some friends to let them know about Safari Live, and we really do appreciate all the good words that you guys are saying about us, because it's definitely helping our family grow, and each day we get more and more new viewers. We get to enjoy this wonderful experience together, and the more the merrier, there's no doubt about that. What a great view this is now, with that little foal standing right by its mother's side. And you get an idea of how much fairer the young foals are compared to the adults. Look at that little foal's rump in comparison to its mother's. Little fuzzball. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Well, sadly it looks like they are continuing off into some thicker bush where we're not going to be able to see them too well, so we will send you back to Brent, who is cruising down Cheetah Cut Line.
So it's been such a fantastic morning with Karula so far, and that nice little herd of buffalo. And I know a lot of you out there are keeping a nice big bird list, and Joan, who's a birder who calls herself a Twitcher, has been requesting a few more LBJs to test you. I can hear one chirping away. So, speaking of birds, Barbara Spooner would like to know what's the loudest bird in the morning. And yeah, Bob, sorry, not Barbara, Bob. Sorry, Bob. And it's, for me, definitely the Natal and Crested Franklins. And we are just trying to get another view of this little bird, who's proving to be quite a camouflage expert. Not moving at all. So unfortunately, the reason I really wanted to show you this one, it's one you guys had a little bit of difficulty with a few days ago on the Arathusa airstrip. And a lot of you who live around urban areas will recognize it. It sounds very similar to sparrows, and a lot of the sparrows have that very similar call. So that call was from a grey-headed sparrow. Oh, elephants! Just saw an Ellie dash across the road. We will get back to the birds. There's so much for LBJs for the moment, but we will get back to the birds. But let's have a look at the largest land mammal in the world. So as I know, a lot of you who regular viewers have heard me talk a lot about approaching elephants. So it's always very important, and I'm actually going to show you, for those who might one day go on a self-drive in Kruger, how to read an animal's behavior before you get too close to get yourself in a potentially bad situation. So I can see, there we go, it is a breeding herd, so obviously you've got to be more careful with the breeding herd than with bulls. I'm just going to move forward. The fact that one was running, I'm not sure whether it definitely wasn't running from us, but whether it's unrelaxed or another elephant was chasing. So they can definitely hear me. I'm talking quite loud, and they're both sides of us now, and you can see just from their body language, they know I'm here, but they're not taking much notice of me. I'm still quite far away, but now immediately I can see, look, feeding, ears flapping, tail is down, so showing no signs of discomfort or stress that I'm close to them. And there's some other elephants that are much closer to us on the right, and again, we can't really see them through the thick bush. Obviously I can see a bit more, and I'm not seeing any of that sort of displacement aggressive behavior that you sometimes get. So again, now moving now slowly, and before I get even closer, if you do have a four-wheel drive, you always, now it's being difficult for four-wheel drive. There you go, you pop your vehicle into low range, and even this is that it's quite slow, and the reason for this is you keep the revs of the engine, so I can move without having to use the accelerator, take my feet off the accelerator. The engine's a nice sort of calm level, and there's not a lot of revving, so when you're in a low range you don't rev a lot. And we can see this, oh look at this, it's a big bully. Hello my boy. Very, very nice, and you can see now he's sniffing along the ground. He's actually not paying much attention to us at all, and there we go, he's looking for nice green grass. There we go, and he's got some into his mouth. There we go. So you can see now his behavior has changed. Oh, sorry, Andrew. So I'm making Andrew look bad. That was my fault. I wasn't watching my monitor. So his behavior has changed. You can see he's dropped his head. His ears aren't out anymore, and they're just flapping normally. So he's let us know he's here, but now he's relaxed in our presence. And the rest of the herd that's around him basically took no notice of us. And boys like to look big and important, so that's quite often why the bulls will do that more often than the cows. It doesn't matter the age of the male, he always likes to be impressive. So if you ever do find yourself driving around where there are African elephants, hopefully a few little pointers there that will help you make sure you stay safe and keep the elephants nice and calm around you. If the ellies ever are upset, and you will see that behavior immediately, that head up, the ears out, the tail almost is one of the best signs. If the tail is slightly erect, the animal's uncomfortable. And if you're not sure, rather keep your distance from the elephants than going closer. Fortunately, we obviously spend an inordinate amount of time with elephants, so we're able to read sort of slightly smaller body language signs that we can see whether the elephant's upset because we're there, or because they're upset because of another elephant or a possible predator in the area. So hopefully that helps anyone who's planning on going on a safari and visiting the Kruger National Park. Hello, big boy. So Liz Lapa says she's been watching the Smithsonian channel and she's found a show that's got elephants walking through a 5-star lodge in Zambia. Believe it or not, the owner of that lodge and is a very good friend of my father's, and both my father and I have been there, and it's called Mfui, and the elephants regularly walk through the reception, and I've actually seen them do that. And in some areas where lodges have been around a long time, the Ellies have come to accept those lodges as sort of part and parcel of their life, and quite often one must remember that lodges are on rivers and that, and so that's areas that elephants like to utilize a lot, especially during the dry seasons. Look at those eyelashes. I'm sure there's a few jealous ladies out there. Wish they had eyelashes that long. Raid Freak on YouTube is also commenting. She said absolutely loves their eyelashes. So this is a nice big adult bull, probably between 30 and 40. And can you believe this? And look, you can see the actual mud stuck to the eyelashes from his last little mud bath for cooling off. And just in case anyone was wondering, can you believe that we are live out today in the African bush? So you are enjoying the largest land mammal in the world at the same time we are out here. And also, if you have any questions about elephants in particular, since we are sitting with them, feel free to send them through. You can drop me an email on questions@WildEarthTV, or you can use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. And if your question doesn't get answered, we apologize. We do get a lot, but keep sending them through, and eventually we will get to, or try and get to, as many as possible. I'm just going to move forward a little bit. So again, now back to a lesson for everyone who might drive around in elephant country at a point in their life. When you start your car with elephants, you can see he immediately reacts, and if you start moving immediately, then sometimes he might chase you. So he's actually working out perfectly. He's being very well behaved in teaching you guys how to drive around ellies. So you let your car run for a few seconds, and what that does is, it is obviously a foreign noise generally for an animal. So you let it run for a few seconds before you move. So he's now got used to it, but his body language has changed again. His ears have gone flat, and he's carrying on with his daily movements. So, and again in low range, nice even revs. I don't have to use the accelerator. I'm in second gear, and I just let the vehicle move forward slowly. And also, you can hear I'm talking normally, calmly. You don't want to have too many sort of loud pitch changes, all those type of things animals pick up on. So we're going to leave the bully for now, and he's feeding off a baby marula over here. There he is. And the rest of the herd seems to be moving through closer to the road here. So we've got some females and hopefully some little ones. Oh, there's another bull coming through as well. There's also some big cows here. Myself, the ellies are moving towards us. I'm not moving towards them and putting myself in their space. So if they come closer to us, it's sort of by their own choice. And you can see she smelt us, she can hear us, and she can see us, and she's decided we're not a threat. So James Taylor is wondering, do Indian elephants have the same body language? James, I've never actually spent time with wild Indian elephants, and I've seen very few. Sorry about the spray noise, it's getting quite hot. I'm just popping some sun cream on. There we go. I've also given the ellies a lot of space to move. They could have chosen to go to the front or to the back of us. And with all animals, when you do spend time close to them, it's always good to give them a route that they feel safe moving out of. So, James, as I said, I haven't spent that much time at all with Indian elephants, but Andrew actually has. Did you in Sri Lanka, Andrew?
Yeah, they're very similar.
There we go. And I wouldn't expect them to be any different. Oh, look at this little female coming. So quite often with the youngsters, they'll show a bit more of that sort of slightly upset display, but see, watch her tail. She's still fine, and it's actually more fun for them than anything else. I'm just going to move the vehicle so we can be parallel to them. So let's do that. This is actually another really big group, and as the drought sets in, we seem to be getting really big congregations of elephants. And there's a couple of different theories about why this happens. But see, there we go, another youngster. It's displaying sort of slightly more, less relaxed. And you see the tail. That is a really good sign. Now, again, we can't take youngsters seriously. So if an adult female started doing that, then we would behave. Look at this. Hello, little monster. That's a little female, probably about 8-9 years old. And again, we need to watch the adults. The adults will tell us whether the herd is actually unrelaxed. The youngsters, quite often, it's not so much being upset as playing in some circumstances. As we can see, adult female, very relaxed. I'm guessing again there's probably about 40 or 50 animals that at the moment. I mean, everywhere we look, there's just ears flapping. Another Ellie there, another Ellie there, and there's a good 15 or 20 behind us already. So Barbara's wondering, do elephants have traditional pathways that they follow no matter where it goes? I wouldn't say no matter where it goes, and I think they do have pathways that they prefer. But these will be areas that they move between food and water. When they're feeding like they are now, they can be spread out over quite a wide area. But when they get sort of that water walk, quite often in single file, they hit one of the big eddy highways that crisscross the bush and head off with quite some speed or actually sort of dedication towards a certain point. And of course, during different years, certain highways will be used more than others, and you'll notice now, and especially when every time we go around where there is a bit of permanent water, like the Djuma and Vuyatela, the Gallagher and Vuyatela pans, you'll find those big, oh, there's a little one, Andrew. I was hoping we'd see, oh, he's a tiny baby, probably less than a month old. I can still see with that backlight quite a bit of fuzzy hair. He's sitting between mom's legs. So, less than a month old. Just that it hasn't lost all that little bits of fuzz. There we go, more Ellies. So, obviously elephants, there's a big female. Elephant tusks are magnificent, and the bulls tend to have bigger tusks than the females. And Anna Marie's wondering why there are more tuskers in the Tembe area. Tembe is to the south of us, or the southeast of us, on the border of South Africa and Mozambique. It's a reserve that's owned by the Zulu chiefs in that area, and it's called Tembe Elephant Park. Here we go. Hello, little monster. They are so cute. Mom, I'm thirsty. And it's quite possible, especially with all the elephant movements at the moment, that we might be one of the first vehicles this little guy's ever seen. And there's two young boys having a go at each other.
There's babies, there's ones behind us.
Babies, there's everywhere. We don't know where to look. There's elephants completely surrounding us. And as I said earlier, it's very important. Now, we've parked in a position that they've decided to come close to us. We haven't forced our way into the herd. I mean, this one was literally 2 meters behind Andrew. And there's two young boys who are playing quite nicely, tusking each other in the bum. Anna Marie, I will get back to your question in a second when the action slows down a bit. I'm so happy there's so many elephants around at the moment. They do bring me such joy. And hopefully bring you all joy as well. I know quite a few of our viewers love spending time with Ellies. And to quote my cameraman, Andrew says he doesn't feel like he's been on a drive unless we see Ellies. He says it's great seeing lions and leopards and all that. But for him, Ellies are what give him the most joy on drive. It just seems to be a never-ending parade of elephants. And there's a nice little word for you guys. A parade of elephants is the original colonial collective. Now here we got a teenager. So this could be fun. sometimes they like to play with us. See, ears out, probably head shake coming. He might even give a little trumpet sometimes. There we go. Look, he's thinking, oh, shouldn't I? And what we saw there is sort of quite interesting elephant behavior. It's sort of displacement behavior. He was thinking about shaking his head and being a big deal. But because we didn't move and we kept quiet, he sort of, oh, I'm just going to eat this plant now. I wasn't actually going to do anything. So Ellies are so much fun, and especially these young males. They can be full of nonsense. And quite often, sometimes when you're driving, you don't see the Ellies initially. These young boys come charging out of the bush at you like a really big deal, pretty much like a teenage boy. And then as soon as you sort of switch off the car, stop and ignore them, they come to a grand halt and then sort of panic and run back to mom screaming at the same time. Yeah, I know your kind. Now you look sheepish. Go hide under the bush. Yes, go fight with. There we go. So there we go. Oh, listen to that. The tusks locking. So all this play fighting we're seeing here is really important for when they get older, and they'll have to compete for mating rights. So we see that the temporal glands on the ellie on the right are secreting. So it's tusk in the bum. It can be a sign of stress, but also with these type of ellies, teenagers and young ones, sometimes their temporal glands are secreting because of hormonal changes as they get older. So not always and only a sign of stress, it could be hormones as well. These two are quite a similar age. I guess they're probably both around 12, 13 years old. And because of all the testosterone and whatnot racing through their bodies, they can be quite naughty and cause quite a lot of havoc. So they can be chased out of their natal herds by their mothers and aunts because they cause so much trouble when they do this. And having two bulls like this, wait, Andrew, look at this one playing on its knees. Oh, it's sitting on its bum. They're having a good old fun time there. Look at that. Full of the joy of life. Little female. So when you see elephants do that when they're playing, so it's basically she's trying to entice the other one to chase her by getting into a weaker position. There we go, and it seems to have worked. She's enticed the other ellie into a game of catch me, and you can see she's all those head shakes and stuff, and just having a good time in the cool early morning. So, Anna Marie, I haven't forgotten your question, but the action is still going. So we will discuss the tuskers of Tembe, and also Monkey Man's got a follow-up question on how long the elephant tusk can get. So I will cover both of those. But while the ellies are active, let's concentrate on what we're seeing, and we can always talk about what we're not seeing a little later. So there's those two playing. We've got these two also at it again, those two young boys. Actually hear their tusks clanking against each other. Oh, did you hear that, Andrew?
Yeah.
There's big tusk collision somewhere off to the east of us. So I'm going to move forward a little bit, see what we can hear, what that was. That sounded bigger than these guys who also still locking tusks. That sounded a bit more serious. Big bull at the back there, and I'm wondering if he'd lock tusks with another bull. Oh, look at this in front of us, charging, chasing each other. And you see now, all of a sudden, the youngsters chasing each other sometimes gets the females. They don't know what's going on, so the females suddenly start speeding up as well. And that's all havoc caused by teenage boys. Look at this coming, Andrew. I know you guys, oh, what's going on? I don't know. I've got to catch up with Mom. Oh my God, panic, panic, panic. See, now all of a sudden, okay, very important, you watch the behavior has changed. I'm not going to go forward. So that was, there we go, trumpeting. Elephants playing, that has suddenly become not so much play. And now they're a little bit stressed and worried, and the females don't know why. And I think it's got a lot to do with that big bull, and we heard that big tusk clash. So there could be a big bull that must somewhere behind here. That could be chasing the females, looking for a female, and he's stressing them. And that could be why all of a sudden there was a bit of panic there, coupled with the youngsters playing. Well, here comes some more females. And I see there's slight little movements in that body language that tell me that she's not as relaxed. And there's the reason. There's an 18 to 20-year-old boy probably harassing the ladies, as most 18 to 20-year-olds do, and some 29-year-olds. Andrew, Joseph Francis. And so that's probably what's going on there. And there's another young bull coming out. So I think those are what we heard, those tusks clashing. It sounded a little bit more serious. It probably was still play fighting between two young bulls, but being much bigger, those young bulls probably weigh well over 2 tons. So bigger than a female already at that young age. And there's the poor harassed female who's trying to get away from them. We're just going to move forward now. The other Ellies that were a little bit upset have moved away, and there's 3 bulls coming. And we all know that it's much easier to deal with a bull than a cow. Oh, look at this monster. This could be the same big bull that we saw on Drive the other day, and he'll be keeping these youngsters in check as well. If it is the same one, I'm trying to look at the tusks. He's got beautiful big tusks, and he is in must, and he's incredibly tall in the shoulder. Isn't that magnificent? He is a monster. Let's give him some space. And he's got that walk. So he is in must. So, okay, we're going to stop. He might come very close to the car, guys. Don't worry. That's enough. Good boy. So if I'd carried on moving, he might have chased the car. The reason I stopped is most animals are attracted to movement. So if you move, they will chase. So that's why I immediately stopped the car when I saw he wasn't going to move away from us. So very important to be much more careful. If you see that inside of the leg, that wet, that's on the inside of his legs, and you're out in the Kruger, rather give that animal a bit of wide berth. Fortunately for us, I said, we've got a lot of experience with these animals. So just moving in the wrong way slightly could entice that animal to move after you. Maybe not in an aggressive but curious manner, but when they're in must, their hormones are so heightened that sometimes the slight wrong movement at the wrong time can cause a problem for you. And those are the photos you often see on Facebook of like an Ellie bull lying on a little Volkswagen Golf or something like that. It's often must bulls where the people have misread the situation. And often what people don't understand, you think getting away from him. So a lot of people, and he's far enough away now, there, instead of switching off and stopping, and you heard me just, it's a weird sound. It sort of breaks their concentration when they're focused on the vehicle. If I had gone like this, you hear how noise and that would have actually enticed him to chase us. So often, although it feels completely unnatural to stop and right next to a big animal like that, especially when he looks very imposing, his ears are out, he's coming towards you, it's often the right thing to do. Okay, so they're moving through the bush. We're not going to follow through the bush with a big musk bull like that. There is another road on the other side of this block, and it does look like the Ellies are moving there. And I'm pretty sure that's the same really big bull we saw a couple of days ago on the Sunset Safari, where we had 4 bulls around, and we've seen now 2 big bulls in this group. And there is likely, with so many females around, there's at least 40 or 50 other members of the herd. I mean, there's more elephants here. Just everywhere we look, there's ellies. Isn't this wonderful? That there is a female in estrus or about to come into estrus. See, we're just going to show you. There's another one of the big bulls moving through the thicket now opposite us. Not the best visual. There we go. You can see there's another big bull. And while we reposition to try and get another nice view of these ellies, let's go across to Scott. He's got something that would be quite painful if it happened to get in between your toes.
So, I'm not too sure who it was that asked a few days ago, excuse me, to show you the Tribulus terrestrius flower, the flower of the little devil's thorn. And we finally found some. I think it could have been Genevieve in New York. Take a closer look here. It's a ground creeper, and they've got bright little yellow flowers. And they appear to be quite a nice little plant at the outset, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to pluck off the little thorn from which they get the name, the devil's thorn. Excuse me, got something stuck in my throat. And I'm going to come and show you that thorn, as well as an old one that I've pulled out of my shoe, just from walking around this area. And it's quite interesting. You'll see, I'm going to put the fresh thorn along with the old thorn down next to one another. And once this wet thorn desiccates and dries out, it will no longer be soft. Like now you can see I've crushed, let me just crush all those little barbs flat, so you can see it's very soft. But once it hardens, it becomes incredibly sharp. And look how that sticks into my finger. And what's also interesting is that regardless of which way it falls, it's always going to have a sharp end. Look at that. Look at how it always sits up, ready to be transported by any animal that stands on it. So a nasty little thorn, and it's always going to get you. It's always got a sharp side pointing up, and they litter the ground in areas of disturbed soils like this. So in areas of soil that are not doing too well, low nutrient content, that's typically where you will find Tribulus terrestrius. Back to Brent, it sounds like you had a great sighting of the elephants, and we're going to continue on now.
So here are the two terrible teenagers that keep locking tusks, so to speak, and we're down on the next road now, so the rest of the herd is moving through the bush, and that big bull is somewhere behind these guys. Yes, hello, mister. Oh, here comes another big bull, and he's got that very determined walk on. And the reason we've got these big bulls around here at the moment, as I just mentioned, that big male was in must. For those of you not sure what must is, it's a heightened hormonal state. So this guy is not in must yet, but the fact that he's following the herd means he could be coming into must. And the reason he's not in must is that really big bull, the one that came close to the car, is in must. And quite often, your big, really big dominant elephants all come into must around the same time, and that coincides with when the majority of the females will come into estrus. So elephants only mate when a female is in estrus, which is, if you think about your domestic animals, which is heat. When they come into estrus, they come into heat. And very unusually, with most animals, a male can mate at any time as long as the female is in estrus. But with elephants, the males will only mate when they were also sort of in heat, and that heightened sort of hormonal period is called must. And it's got a very distinct smell. And he's not in must, but he's quite a bit smaller than the other, and you can see there distinctly not wet, drip, and his penile sheath isn't dripping. So I mean, during must, an elephant bull can lose up to sort of 8 liters of fluids in a day just from that constant dripping between 8 and 60 liters. I nearly forgot that. So depending on how heightened the must is. So you'll find all your smaller bulls and your not so dominant bulls will come into must at a different time of the year to those really big boys like this guy. So he in terms of dominance over the whole sort of African savannah, he is the most dominant animal. And when he's in must period, that heightened hormones, he is definitely not someone to be trifled with. And he'll chase lions, he'll chase leopard, he'll chase buffalo, and quite often sometimes do injury to other animals, and all in the aid of trying to mate. Just going to move forward again a little bit. I really want to get another nice view of this guy, but obviously because he's in must, I'm not going to drive off road and follow him, so I'm rather waiting for him to come to me. He might have stopped for a snack somewhere. This is a good spot to wait. He was almost directly opposite us here. So while we wait for that big bull to appear, Jessica Wolves, who's on Twitter, would like to know, what age is he behind us?
Oh no, that's an aeroplane. No.
It's an aeroplane. Andrew thought he heard an elephant, but it is a Cessna 206, and I can see flying behind Andrew. Someone's about to arrive on safari. I think I've got his visual through here. I can just see movement. It's still quite far away. So Jessica was wondering, what age do males normally leave the herd, and do females ever leave the herd? So Jessica, anywhere from as young as 12 or 13 years old, normally closer to 15, 16, and they don't leave the herd by choice. They're pushed out of the herd by the females, because at that age they reach sexual maturity between 12 and 14 years old, but they're unable to mate until they're about 30. So all that testosterone running through their veins, they tend to be quite full of nonsense. So the females tend to try to get them away from the breeding herd, from the younger, smaller individuals. So here you got some females coming through. And females do sometimes leave the herds, not to the same degree as a male who becomes completely separate from the herd. The females, especially in a big group like this, you'll probably find even on these 40 animals, all the females will be related. So quite often there are little family nucleuses within a big herd, normally of 5 to 10 animals, and those will often split off from the bigger herds and spend time on their own. So they do leave the herd, but not fully, and they can often rejoin the herds. So it's very interesting. So we got Ellie's passing on either side of us, but I can't see that big bull, and just from the speed they're walking, it means he's probably not too far behind them. They're trying to get away from him. So that female we're watching through here has still got a calf of, let me see when it comes out into the road how old. Probably 5 or 6 years old, so she's not ready to mate yet. But those big bulls will test their luck with all the ladies. And when you weigh 6,000 kilograms, it can be quite a lot of weight to throw around. On that termite mound, just okay. Can we double tap? Boom. Okay, just to the left slightly, down slightly. There, it just popped. So I just saw a tiny bit of movement there, and it looks like there's some dwarf mongoose. So while we wait for that big bull to arrive, I thought we could maybe add another animal, but looks like they're being a little bit shy. There we go, to the left. Chased something down that termite mound and disappeared back up again. Oh, we've got some more females behind us now, and they've just stopped and they're listening. I wonder where the big boy is. Here we go. Andrew's going to swing around. I'm pretty sure we're almost directly in line of where he went into this block. But obviously with all the females around, he might change his direction. Just swing around. Oh, let them go. See, look how they're moving. They're not relaxed. They're moving, and that's definitely not from us. So you see that tail We might get a bit of misplaced aggression towards us because we're close by, but they're definitely trying to avoid that big musk bull. And quite often with the breeding herds, you can see when they are not happy, and quite often the cause of that is one of those big bulls. Now, Liberty Ann has caught me out on something I really should know, but I'm drawing a complete blank. I used to know. Maybe Andrew does. I'll ask him in a second. At what age do elephant babies get weaned? So what age do they stop breastfeeding? And I've just drawn a complete blank, and naughty me, I should know that like that, but I don't know why, I've just suddenly forgotten. So if you guys want to check what age an elephant's weaned at, I'm going to do the same thing while we wait for this big bull. I'll try to find my book and have a quick look. Sorry about that, guys. Every now and then, we are human, we do forget certain things.
I'll guess and say 5, but it is a guess.
Andrew's saying 5. I think it's closer to 8. I don't know why it's in my head. So we're talking about how elephants sometimes get stressed out by the elephants, particularly musk bulls. And we had a really wonderful sighting a little bit earlier of a baby Ellie who wasn't sure why the rest of them were running. So we did manage to capture that. And for those who might have missed it, Nikki in Final Control is going to play it again for you now while I try and remember how long, what age an elephant's weaned at. It's coming, Andrew. I know you don't. Oh, what's going on? I don't know. I've got to catch up with Mom. Oh my God! Panic! 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 So isn't that wonderful? And you can see, because of the reaction of the rest of the herd, a very young baby like that, who's probably under a month old, doesn't really know what's going on. So it sees the others running and just thinks, oh, I gotta go, I must go. Okay, hang on one second here. I've got my book. I think I can hear that bull coming. Andrew's going to try. There we go. Oh dear. No, I can't even find it in the book. There we go. Here we go. It is very interesting that both Andrew and I were correct there. So it depends on the area and the amount of food. Elephants can be weaned from as young as 3 years, but generally a bit longer, from 5 to 8 years. So there we go. Well done, Andrew. High five. So I can't see this bull coming through. I'm just going to loop ahead to see if he's possibly changed his direction or been distracted by possibly more females. There's so many cows and calves around here, and that he might have been distracted by another group and changed his direction slightly. And with that bull pushing them, we're not going to follow those Ellies off into the bush. They've got enough to deal with the 6,000 kilogram hormone following them around. And also possibly he might have got hungry and stopped for a snack as well. So I didn't catch who it was, but after the replay someone says, I want a job like that. Yes, we are very lucky to do what we do and spend time in the bush. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. Ever since I was a small child, I've always known whatever I'm going to do, it will be in the bush. Not quite at home in the city. I sleep very well when the lions are roaring or the elephants are trumpeting. Don't sleep so well with car noise and sirens. let's have a quick look here. I want to see if I can show you something quite fascinating. Where was he? He was here, and then he passed over here somewhere in front of us. That big musk bull, so he headed in there. I just want to see if we can... He passed that side, of the termite mark. He has some feet marks, but there have been so many eddies. No, I think that's the... There we go. So let's have a look here. So we talked about must and that he can drip incredible amounts of fluid from his penile sheath during the time. And so when you find little driplets like this, it almost looks like someone's just washed a car and the water's been dropping off it. But this is the wet sand from the dripping of the penile sheath during must. You can still smell it. It's really, really strong smell. Very difficult to describe. Someone asked me to describe must. I say it smells like must. Quite a sweet smell, sort of almost sickly sweet smell. Andrew, you got anything on how it smells? Anything you can compare it to? I can't really think of anything else I've ever smelt that smells like an elephant bull in must.
It's very distinctive.
Yeah, once you smell it, you'll never forget it. Okay, well, I'm not sure where he's disappeared to, but we're going to head a little bit further down our eastern boundary here. I will loop back towards that area, see if we can get another view of him. I really do love big Eddie bulls. One of my favorite animals, and I can't remember exactly, but someone did ask whether elephants were my favorites, and I know it's really difficult to have a favorite, and I've got Hannah asked which elephants were my favorites. They're definitely one of my favorites, but for me, hands down, my favorite is the African wild dog. It's sort of, I don't know why, I do know why, they're very exciting to follow. They're incredible apex predators, and they're always very busy. But I would say for the wild dog, ellies are up there, lion, leopard. I'd say elephants, lion, leopard are almost on a par. Cheetah also around there, but wild dogs definitely above for me personally, and everyone's got their own preferences.
I thought you loved the butterflies the most, Brent.
Andrew says he thought I loved the butterflies the most. So before I went on leave, I definitely set myself a challenge, and we tried to get as many butterfly species on camera. And actually 2 of those butterfly species I'm actually still waiting to find out what they were. I couldn't find them in the book, so I sent them off to the University of the Witwatersrand, which is the University of Johannesburg, to the lepidoptery experts to see if I can get an ID. I think Varsity hasn't started, so they're not checking their emails just yet. Hopefully we will get a feedback on 2 of those little blue butterfly species, to exactly which butterflies they are. But my mission for the rainy season, and it's turned out to be a very difficult mission because we haven't had that much rain, is to improve my butterfly knowledge. I've got good sort of butterfly knowledge, but now to sort of take it to the next level. And that's the wonderful thing about being in the bush. There's so many different things you can focus on and learn more about. And every single day we see stuff we don't know about. So we have a little confession from Monkey Man in Australia. He says, when he started watching Safari Live, he didn't really like elephants, but now he loves them, and especially the babies. They are extremely cute and always playful, and it's so wonderful when they're so young, they still don't know what to do with their trunk, and they sort of try to pick up things. Really, really entertaining. I'm just trying to remember now, we had a question about the big tuskers of Tembe, and why they're bigger tuskers there than here. So it actually falls within the same elephant genetics. So if you pulled up a map of South Africa, I might actually have to draw this in the sand for you. But, so we are sort of over here, and Tembe is almost a straight line down here near the coast. And for some reason there are incredibly big tuskers there. massive bulls. I've been fortunate enough to actually go there and see some of those massive bulls. I've got some fantastic photographs of them. But the Kruger and Tembe sort of line, it's the same sort of genetic line, and they are known for very big tuskers, and there are some monster tuskers in the Kruger and in the greater Kruger area, and hopefully we'll get a visit from one day on a safari. I probably don't see as many tuskers during the 18th. We welcomed Meredith and her boyfriend Corey for the first time, or Corey for the first time. Meredith's been watching for a few days this morning, so this is the best show she's watched so far, and she said Scott and long-haired Guy are her favorites. Well, Meredith, long-haired Guy's name is Brent, and that's me, so thanks very much. Lovely to hear that you are fans of ours and that you want to plan a trip to Djuma. It is definitely an amazing experience to come to Africa. Actually, at the end of all my emails, I have a little quote. I can't remember exactly who it was written by now, but it says, if you ever visit 2 continents in your life, visit Africa twice. Andrew likes that. So, from the long-haired guy to the short-haired, bearded guy, let's go see what Scotty's up to.
Well, I hope you've all been enjoying yourself with the long-haired guy. And who knows, maybe he will have a slightly different appearance this afternoon and have his man bun. I'm wondering why he hasn't been utilizing that very fashionable hairdo of his. So maybe it's the fact that we've been having some cool weather and he prefers to engage man bun only when it's hot to keep those locks off his neck. We've got some good news here. There's a bird you can hear squawking up ahead. The sunlight's going to be tricky for VM to work with, but I'm sure he'll make a plan. That is a brown-headed parrot, the only parrot that we get in this area of operation, and as he tweaks the lighting as best as he can, you may notice a few greenish kind of tinges on the body and a slightly duller head, and hence the name, the brown-headed parrot. Good. That may be a new bird for your bird lists. Well, it's been great fun this morning. Certainly loved having you guys along for the journey. And it's getting quite warm now. As soon as you stop and don't have any wind blowing over your body, there's a fine layer of sweat that starts forming almost immediately. So, more typical weather for our summer, although it's strangely cool at this time of the year. So we've been very, very fortunate with the weather. Not as hot as it usually is. Well, it's so wonderful to hear that there's quite a few of you coming out to Djuma and surroundings in the near future this year, and really look forward to getting to meet with you guys. Make sure that you plan in advance to set up a date of sorts. Mike in Florida has just suggested that we should meet up for an adult beverage of sorts, and that sounds most enjoyable. I can definitely get involved in that with you, Mike. And it is always really, really wonderful for us to meet you. I think almost it's nicer for us to meet you than it is for you to meet us, because you have already kind of met us, I guess, whereas we have often never laid eyes on you before, yet have conversed so much and shared so much with you. So it always is a great pleasure when we do get to meet you. There's a bird of prey circling quite low, and I'm hoping it's going to turn back towards us to allow VM to show you just how beautiful it is, but it doesn't look like it's playing along, although VM has done remarkably well to stay on it. It was a Battalier eagle, and I was, like I said, hoping that it was going to float above us. But they move huge distances. They're traveling generally, when a bird is soaring, I'm told, casually soaring like that, they're traveling at around 50 miles an hour. And as you would have noticed there, it didn't flap its wings once, and it's already warm enough for the earth to be expelling these hot thermals that allow these big birds of prey to float effortlessly above us. I could quite easily come back as a bird of prey in my next life. And I'm always very envious of the views that they must have from up there. So Karula was lost following a herd of impala further north into Buffalo's Hook. So Abel and Ephraim did manage to spend a little bit of time with her, but in the end couldn't keep up with her through some thick bush. So that is the final update we have on her. Oh, Jeannie, apologies for the confusion. As far as I'm aware, Brent is not having a haircut. Negative on the haircut. No haircut for Brent, as far as I'm aware. So you don't have to worry. His golden locks will continue to flow and take up the majority of the screen as he drives through the African wilderness with you guys. And like I said, if anything, the style he may be doing is the man bun, where he bundles that mess of hair into a little ball and then ties it up and clonks it about there, perches it about there on his head. And he used to do it quite a bit. He hasn't done it for a while, so I will be sure to query why he has yet to do that in the recent drives. I did speculate that maybe fashion's changing and it's no longer fashionable to have a man bun. But like I say, I will interrogate him over our fried breakfast. We have a fried breakfast every second morning, and it's fried breakfast day, which I'm looking forward to, as opposed to yogurt and fruit. And Curious Ones just mentioned that when it's shower time for me, I must approach with caution. Don't worry, Curious One, I did approach my shower very, very cautiously last night. For those of you who don't know, 2 nights ago, at about 9:30, I walked into my shower, and it's an outdoor shower, so beautiful. You can see the stars while you're showering, or occasionally shower in the rain, which is a wonderful sensation. But this night I was walking into the shower to turn on the hot tap to get that going, and a bushbuck jumped out from behind the shower and gave me the fright of my life. I thought it was a leopard, but thankfully it wasn't. Anyway, thank you guys so much for what has been a wonderful, wonderful safari. Well done to Brent on choosing that right spot to relocate on Karula. Thanks, VM, great work on camera, and also a big thank you to Nikki and Kirsty directing the show from the final control room. It'll be Jamie and Brent out this afternoon. So, oh, well, Brent's just gone black screen, so you're going to be staying with me for a while. Black screen means no picture. And he's obviously in a bit of a low signal area, but he's just popped back up, which is great because I'm sure he would like to say goodbye to you. See you next time.
What an incredible sunrise safari we've had. Scotty finding Karula off the bat, losing her, and so nice that we could work in tandem to find her again. And fortunately, she was listening to us. And as I often say, it's more important to use your ears than your eyes in terms of finding animals. So don't forget that there's another safari today, so you can join us again in a few hours for the sunset safari, and hopefully we're going to be able to find as much exciting stuff as we did on the sunrise. So it's been great having you with. Welcome to all the new viewers. Keep watching. From the long-haired guy and Andrew Francis, have a wonderful rest of your day, wherever you might be in the world. Cheers for now.